I have your attention, please? This time I would like to ask Sister Lucille Cripple to please come up here to the microphone to welcome all of us here to this 1990 football banquet.
Thank you, Father Bill. And good evening to all. In the name of the administration, the faculty, and staff, and especially the coaches of Joliet Catholic Academy, we want to welcome each and every one of you here this evening. We extend a very special thanks to all the parents who are here and the alum, the student body, all of those who have gathered to help make this a very, very special celebration. But most of all, we want to honor the athletes of Joliet Catholic Academy who have had an outstanding season this year. Gathered here with us this evening is also Mayor Connor. We welcome him. And I don't know if we have any other special guests, but if so, please step forward. We want to welcome you also. But it isn't somebody waving their hand, and it's probably one of our freshman boys. Thank you again to each and every one. And this is a very, very special event. I want to make special mention that we want to thank a group of parents who gathered with us to look over the preparations for this evening's event and brought some very fine suggestions, which brought us here to this lovely hall this evening. So we thank those parents present here who did that for us. And also want to thank Patty and Bob Pico, who have been very generous in their offer to work with us with the banquet this evening. And so there are many, many people to be grateful for, and also want to say a very special thanks to Father Bill Word, our athletic director, who has done an outstanding job. As I mentioned, the center of our attention tonight, of course, though, are our athletes. And we couldn't be more proud of these young men who have done such an outstanding job throughout the season this year. And want to extend a real special thanks to our coaches, though, who have given endless hours of time and their skill to help bring about the accomplishments of the teams that we have seen this year. And I want to say also a big thanks to their wives. We know that they sacrifice a lot during this football season, and that they too are behind the great efforts that come about there. So many, many thanks to all of you, and do have a very enjoyable evening. We're so happy you're with us.
And now Father Bernhard Bowerly, Principal of Joliet Catholic Academy, will lead us in prayer.
God of goodness, we thank you this evening for your many gifts, and we praise you as the source of all we have and are. Teach us to acknowledge always your blessings around us, and to be thankful for the infinite expressions of your love. Help us to be generous with each other as you are generous with us. We come together this evening to honor our athletes who have fought the good fight. They are an inspiration to our school community. Reward them for their many efforts. And we thank you for their parents and the coaches who have spent many hours in loving care in helping them achieve their particular goals. May our celebration stir in us a desire to share in the friendship of each other. And may we enjoy your presence and love in the baking and sharing of the food that you bring to us this evening. In a very special way, we also want to implore Mary. Today is the feast day of Our Lady of Guadalupe, the patroness of Mexico and of the Americas. We ask Mary to continue to look over our school community, Joliet Catholic Academy, and to give us the inspiration and the protection that we seek. To St. Francis of Assisi, that his peace and his justice may dwell in our hearts, especially during this Christmas season. And So we come to you, Lord, in praise and thanksgiving to Jesus Christ, your Son. Amen.
Dinner instructions now. The head table, those of us seated up here, will go through and get our food first. When we're all finished going through the line, then we'll begin with this row here all the way down, okay? We'll go down this side, and then the row along the far wall, okay? The whole row down will go through, and then if everyone will please remain. If I could have everyone's attention, please. And I sure hope everyone enjoyed their fantastic meal we had this evening. First things are always very special, we're told, in our experience as we go through life. The first year of a new school is no different. And to have accomplished what we have accomplished this year at Joliet Catholic Academy in our first year of existence, I believe is something that is definitely not only for the record books of our own school, but the record books of the state, the East Suburban Catholic Conference, and perhaps even the nation, to win a state football championship in the first year of a school's existence. And so for that reason, we gather here this evening, and also to pay homage and respect and encouragement to everyone that has been involved in the entire football program this year, from coaches all the way through freshman football players, through sophomores, up to varsity. At this time, I would like to give special recognition to our coaching staff. I am convinced that we have the best coaching staff in this area, in the state. The hours of dedicated service that they put into the school, to the young men that they coach, I believe is definitely unparalleled in our area. And that is, the proof is in the pudding, they say. And the accomplishments that we have achieved throughout the years, I believe, make that self-evident. So I'd like to recognize the coaches that are here with us this evening. First of all, Coach Larry Larson, head freshman football coach, seated down at the end of the table. Coach Larson was assisted this year by Bill Blank. And Jim Thomas, who is unable to be with us here this evening. The freshmen achieved the conference championship this year for the East Suburban Catholic Conference. And at this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Larson to please come up and introduce to us his freshman football players.
Before I acknowledge these young men, I'd like to personally thank Joliet Catholic Academy and Coach Stone for this privilege of coaching on this freshman level. I'd appreciate it if you hold your applause till I'm finished here with these young men. And guys, if you're here, will you please stand? Nick Anastopoulos, Tony Anarino, Dickie Barnes, Tim Barrowman, John Basil, Chris Bates, Gabe Blackburn, Isaac Blink, Greg Brown, Paul Cave, Earl Clark, Jeff Clennon, Dennis Ferguson, Jan Fiddler, Joe Peleus, Jim Gregorich, Mike Heenan, Vince Hendrickson, Scott Hetman, Brian Hutchinson, Jason Wang, Aaron Jacola, Chris Jordan, Bill Junk, Chris Konalakis, Sean Kennedy, Steve Kozlowski, Matt Levy, Tony Marino, Steve Marcoon, Scott McCabe, Jerry Michael, Bob Monday, Paul Nino, Tom O'Connor, Mike Ostrowski, Robbie Papuzza, Scott Parker, Scott Pico, Dan Popolowski, Andy Freeze, Tony Paleo, Kevin Quinn, Joe Rambo, Tim Ryan, Mike Stopko, Eric Stapleton, Brad Susty, Brad Thornton, Mark Tomac, Ryan Udovich, Joe Voda, Lonnie Walker, Matt Wallace, Brian Walsh, Murphy White, Brian Wilhelmy, and Chris Young.
All those freshman football players, please stand up again. Stay standing so we can clap and see at the same time. All freshman football players, please stand.
I explained to these young men, it was our last week of practice, and I told them that if I ever had to get up and tell exactly how I felt, I wouldn't do a very good job of it. So that last week of practice, I told each and every one of them how I felt, so I'm sure they know exactly how I feel. I know we had some fun together. We prayed together. We sang our new Joliet Catholic Academy Loyalty. And guys, from the freshman coaches, I know Bill Blink feels the same way I do. It was a heck of an experience that I'll remember for a long, long time. And guys, thank you. I had a ball.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Coach Bill Bryan, our sophomore head coach. He was assisted this year by Mr. Leo Mahalik and Mr. Joe Rodagero, both of whom are unable to be here this evening. Coach Bill Bryan, please.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce a fine group of young men. We ended up the year 8-1, and I told the guys after the last game what a surprise it was to end up that good a record with the lack of size and the lack of depth. but these guys gave everything they had. They did a great job. So I'll introduce them now. Please stand in when I call your name and remain standing. At quarterback, Ray Chodorowski. Fullback, Noel Vasquez. At halfback, we had several. Matt Larson, Matt Price, John Vanek, Brian Alcala. At wide receiver and end, had Brad McEwen, Bill Edelman, Scott Dixon, Bill Gockman, Joe Jakubowski, and Stan Carlisle. Now with the linemen, they were going both ways, so I'll just read them off in one group. Kevin Fitro, Brian Phelan, Matt Allen, Mark Day, Brian Leiker, Mark Crow, Mark Pavlis, Vic Zamudio, Kevin Bouchard, Aaron Levy, Jason Bowden, and Bob Clancher. At the linebackers, we had Ben Henley, Casey Talbot, Eric Perriou, and Joe Polera. Then defensive back, John Fitzgerald, Mike Piccolo, Jeremy Mahan, Brandy Brancheski, John Berta, Wes McMillan, Colin Lissner, Nate Wills, and Scott Deininger. I also wanted to thank all the coaches, especially the two that aren't here with us tonight, Joe Rodiguero and Leo Mahalik, for all the help that they gave me. And let's give these young men a fine round of applause.
Before I move on to the varsity coaching staff, because once I do that, then Coach Stone and Coach McLaughlin get to talk, and I won't probably get a chance to talk again. But before I move on to the varsity coaching staff and turn over the rest of the program to them, there are a few people here I would like all of us to give some special recognition to for their assistance to me this year. And without their assistance, my temper, which flared quite frequently as it is, would have flared even more. And I'd like to thank especially Sister Maury, Clarence Meyer, and Larry Grant, who are here with us this evening for their assistance this year. Clarence, I think, has been selling tickets since 1939. Is that right, Clarence? Huh? 1927. So when I have a question about how to sell tickets, Clarence is the guy I go to. Our varsity coaching staff is excellent, to say the least. Assisted by Terry Benter, Barry Dean, Dave Douglas, and Corey McLaughlin, Coach Bob Stone has brought to Joliet Catholic Academy a success that is difficult to imagine, but yet it's not that difficult to imagine. When I look out across this room and see the fine young men that attend our school and represent our school so very well on the athletic field. So without any further ado, any more of my talking, I'd like to introduce now Coach Bob Stone.
thank you very much. I don't know if that's because you don't want me to take too long, but before I do anything as far as like the rest of the program, the first thing I promised myself on the day of the reception when we came back and we had the parade from the stadium and we did not have enough medals for all the young men to be able to get, the first thing I promised myself is that when those other medals came in, that those guys would get their medals tonight. Instead of being brought up without any medals, just me shaking their hand or anything like that, I wanted them to be, I didn't want them to feel bad because they didn't get a medal. Because the state only gives us so much. I don't know how many they give us. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing on my part. I just read off some names, and I knew some people were going to be left out. I wanted to make sure that because maybe from the little bit of stress that those kids had not getting a medal that day, that they would get theirs tonight in front of everybody else. The people, I mean, everybody there really cared. But these are the people that really care the most. Their teammates, their mothers and fathers, maybe aunts and uncles, or a grandmother or grandfather or something like that. So before I do anything, these will be the only men that will be brought up here during this whole program. Everybody else, letters and everything else, awards were handed out after we're all done. We're not going to take any time with that. So first of all, I'd like those young men to come up. And I'm not sure if they're even all here. Chris Carr. I don't think Chris is with us this evening. Scott Kozlowski. Steve Kapinas. Paul Hasminas. Matt Barrett. Ed Clark. No rush, Ed. And Ryan Brown. Now on with the show. Only thing I was disappointed with this beautiful facility is there's no podium, so now you have to hold your cheat sheet up so you can know I know what I'm going to say in the next few minutes. First of all, I'd like some thank yous in general to a lot of people that helped us accomplish what we could. The media in Joliet's always very kind to us. The Joliet Herald, Channel 15, the cable TV and everything, they're very nice to us. Especially after everybody else was eliminated and we were still in, and they filled that paper just about everything they could with Joliet Catholic Academy. We realized that during the season they have to spread things out. Joe Passion was very, very upset when we were not going to be on the regular season cable games, but he assured me we would be, one of their first playoff games. And luckily we were able to have, the 3 home games, so we were on TV much more than anybody else in the area, and I really appreciate that. The trainers from Newsom Sports Center that helped us, they came on, they renewed a program they had in the past, being at our games and also coming to practice a couple times a week and help us out. Dr. Wright, who was on the sidelines. Sister Maury, who of course, even though she's no longer employed at Joliet Catholic Academy, still came to all the football games. I think probably really helped myself, helped Father Bill get us through some tough times. She was always there reminding us what we had to do when it was Friday. Bob, do you have this? Bill, do you have this? Where's the videotapes? Where's the camera? Things that, we probably would have lost without her being around. And I can't name everybody, all the various helpers, people that worked on the chain gang, people that helped sell tickets, the fathers that worked as crowd control, everything else, they're very, very appreciated. You people here, the parents, we realize that it's a lot of time and effort that the kids put in. You have to adjust meal times. Sometimes you have to adjust what you do. Sometimes even vacation times because we're active in the summer. And I know some of your boys are like, when I played sports, and it doesn't matter what you're supposed to do. If there's something to do with the team, I'm going to be there rather than family or anything else. we always tell the kids the families first, but I know a lot of those kids want to be on the football field. Our wives from the coaching staff. Father Bill, talked about this already. A tremendous amount of time away from home. Many evenings where I know, at least in my case, I'm not nice to talk to when I come home after practice sometimes, or I'm too nervous before the games, and it's really, really very much appreciated. If we didn't have wives supporting us at home and listening to us when we were yelling at them, we'd probably be in a lot worse shape than we are already psychologically. And of course to my coaches, and that's the coaches on all levels. They do a tremendous job. Two people I'd like to point out a little bit more than anybody else, Bill Blank and Larry Larson, who coached with us their first year this year, both did it as volunteers. They did not receive 1 cent to be able to do it. We had the coaching staff that, where our numbers were going to be. I really felt I needed some more people. I knew these were two men that had been interested in coaching. And so you see, Joliet Catholic football is not only kids who sacrifice a lot, but a lot of people who just want to be involved. And they did a tremendous job with the freshmen, put in as much time and effort as anybody who's ever been paid to coach anywhere, and probably a lot more than coaches that get paid quite a bit more at some other high schools. And I really appreciate that. Just again with the quality of coaching staff that we have, and a lot, that sounds like a lot of nice words, but it's a reality. I was an assistant coach for many years, and I was lucky enough to work for some coaches like Gordy Gillespie and Jim Boyder, who appreciated assistant coaches and who wanted you to coach, who wanted your input. There were plays that we put in this year that were suggested to me from Coach Larson, plays that were suggested from Leo Mahalik. Joe Rodriguero called the extra point play in the state championship game, the halfback pass to Jeff Bonebrake. I trust them. I have complete faith in them. And they're good enough football people that if they have an opinion, I'm going to take it. And that's a tribute to their knowledge as football coaches. And I think just the relationship we have on the staff. Some are freshmen, some are varsity coaches, but they're all very, very important. They're out, for those guys that weren't varsity coaches and didn't get to see any playoff games until the state championship because they had to go watch other teams play. When you're in that situation, there's nothing worse because you don't know if you're there for a lost cause. You're watching two teams play, and for all you know, your team might be losing. I've done that for years, and there is more stress in that situation than anything else imaginable. To be an hour and a half away and not even knowing if what you're doing means anything. So they all put in a lot of time, a lot of effort. And it's something, that I think sometimes everybody thinks, oh, it's the varsity coaches or it's the head coach. It's all of us. My defensive staff is so good that reporters, they want to ask me questions. Well, what did the defense do? I'm honest. I said, I don't have any idea. I know nothing about I know what the defense does, but I have nothing to do with the day-to-day work of the defense. How easy that makes it for me. This year I was able really to coach 26 kids. Those are the 26 offensive players. I didn't have to worry about the other 30 players on the football team because I had 3 men that I knew were going to do as good a job as I possibly could. So I just stayed out of their way. Coach Mack, Coach Dean, and Coach Benner, tremendous job. And anybody that's on my staff, I truly believe probably could be a varsity coach, if not a head coach, anywhere else. They're that good. I'm just glad they stay here and they don't get any big offers anywhere else. To believe this all started, the quest for the state championship, you want to say it that way, and I never even really took it seriously when it came, and I've referred this to the kids. Last spring, I had received a note in my mailbox, and that note was from Mike Jones. And Mike Jones, just said some nice things to me. We have a program through some of our classes where the kids are encouraged to write notes to teachers and things like that. And the last line was, Coach, don't plan anything around Thanksgiving. We're going to be in the state championship game. And that was something I never really thought. I kept it in my briefcase the whole time. I still have it in my briefcase. Something I looked at during the playoffs every week, something I reminded the kids about. Mike had made me that promise, and it was their job to keep it. But that's when it started. It went on to, obviously, the kids lifting weights. They did a tremendous job there. Went on to our summer camp, our summer class, and then, obviously, the season. And, it all culminated in that championship game. It's obvious that it was a tremendous season. It was, there's not much, to say words about it probably would belittle it somewhat. It was like a dream come true. 14 games, 14 victories. No one on earth would have thought that possible. Even the coaching staff probably if you would have asked us, thought that possible. Fortunately for us, the 56 kids on the football team thought it was possible. Like I said the day of the reception, we have a tremendous amount of tradition. We've got great coaches. No one wins without good football players. You could be Bear Bryant, Vince Lombardi, Newt Rockney, all combined into one person, and you wouldn't win a game without the people on the field. Anybody that doesn't believe that has a lot bigger idea of themselves than, is realistic. And the kids just did a tremendous job all year. It was great to see the development of a team. We were worried what were going to happen, how good we were going to be. The kids got better as the season went on. We improved tremendously after the beginning of the season. Without getting into individuals, we had some tremendous growth of people as individuals. Some kids that we had some questions about of their ability to play, their ability to relate and communicate with other people on the team. And everybody put all their differences away, their personalities, and we were a football team. We weren't a bunch of individuals. They were all there for one reason. And that's a tribute to these guys and their maturity, to sometimes put away maybe their personal goals or personal feelings to realize the important thing was to win football games. And that's, what it's about here at Joliet Catholic Academy. Those are the type of people that walk in our door. We don't turn them into that. We may help them develop, but they've gotten that from their families. They've gotten that from everything else surrounding them, and they just bring it with them into our doors. We get tremendous people to come to our school. One thing I did want to say, I was handed this record book that was updated in the early 80s was the first time it was put out, and in 81 they had a special edition, and it's going to be put out again. And it's like the history of Joliet Catholic football, everybody that's ever played here, every record that ever exists. And I was handed this, and there's a couple remarkable things simply just from the school itself. We are 2 wins away from 400 wins as a high school, which is unbelievable as a football program. Another thing, people can talk tradition, but the thing that maybe impressed me the most, since 1950, there's been one losing season at Joliet Catholic High School, and that was Gordy Gillespie's first year as a football coach. 39 years of being over 500 is a tremendous achievement at any level of any sport. That says a lot about Joliet community. They've called it the City of Champions, and it's really the truth when you start looking at things in this book. As a team, some things that we did, again, I'm not a statistician. I really don't pay attention to them. Luckily I had some kids who did a great job with them. But when I was handed this, they said, well, look at the records. We broke a few of them. Team rushing in a season, most yards rushing in a season, most points scored in a season, most extra points attempted in a season, most extra points made in a season, most games won in a season, and one I'm not too proud of, most penalty yardage in a season we also broke. So we set 8 new records as a team. We tied the most rushing touchdowns in a season, the most safeties in a season, and we also the fewest rushing attempts against us, as teams just did not want to run the ball against our defense, which was quite obvious. Some individual records. Mike Allstott set a new rushing record, breaking John Larson's record. Mike set the record for average per carry. Jason Nedlow, although this is a rather new record, this means a lot to me. I have a lot of tremendous feelings for my quarterback, and mainly because of all the negative vibes that I got last year. Jason Nedlow is going to be, I think, something that's going to be hard to break. The best completion percentage for one game, with a minimum of 15 pass attempts. Jason threw for 80% against Notre Dame and Niles this year, and I don't know if that's going to be broken. Darren Freeman, and I wasn't even aware of this because, everybody, you ask anybody, we don't throw the football. And we didn't too much this year, but over a career, Darren Freeman is now the leader in receptions in the history of Joliet Catholic High School, breaking a record that was set by Larry McEwen. And then the most extra points, as I said already, Jeff Bonebreak holds that record. And just the most points total from a kicker, Jeff. You know, and of course you got to realize for years Gordy never kicked the ball, so some of those records weren't. Another thing is just how important, I didn't realize how important this was to so many people. I mean, obviously, the immediate fans, I realized, since that state championship game, I've gotten letters, cards, from all over the country, from Joliet Catholic alumni, from people who were able to see the game via satellite. I got a crocheted football, and I feel sorry because I don't remember the name right, but from a 1939 graduate, his wife crocheted me a football, it says Joliet Catholic 1990, number 1. Just a tremendous outpouring of people. Before I get to introduce some of the players, the one thing I want to clear up here, because this has been, I know I walked about 15 miles the night of the state championship game. It was nerves, I'll be honest with you. But the one thing, you know, people, oh boy, you didn't watch the end of the game. You know, my wife knew that. She said, you couldn't watch it, could you? And part of it was, no, I couldn't watch it. But to be honest with you, talking to Dave Douglas on the sidelines, what I was doing is I thought, well, if they score, we're going to get the ball, and there's going to be 38 seconds left to go in the game. I knew if I could think of what we had to do, if I could come up with the right plan, that our team could do something about it in 38 seconds. I was just afraid that I wouldn't be able to come up with it. That's why I walked 500 miles that last 2 minutes of the game to let these guys win the game, because I know they could if I could give them the right plan. That's the truth of why I was running up and down those sidelines. Now I'd like to I'll introduce the offensive players. First of all, some special people. We have them down as managers, and that's kind of a misconception because they weren't really managers. They're much more important than that. My film crew, Scott Gustafson and Andy Matthews, if you two are here, if you please stand up. My statisticians on the sideline who helped immensely, Jason Reza, who wrote down every play I called during the game. That helped tremendously when I watched films after that game that night or the next morning, so I knew exactly what was coming up. And Jeff Schwenke, who was our stat man, who compiled all the statistics, then brought them to me on Monday. He had put them in a computer. I had, you know, the stats for that game, and I had the cumulative stats for every game as the season went on. And it really helped in my dealing just what we were doing as a team and dealing with all the newspapers and media that wanted statistics. I just say, well, you know, my stat man has got it. He does it all for me. It just made it very, very easy for me, and I really appreciate that. I'd like to introduce now our juniors, some of whom played quite a bit this year, some that did not. And I'll just talk about the offensive players. Coach Mack will have the defensive players. And next year, they're obviously going to be the nucleus of our team next year as seniors. Sometimes it's a lot of pressure. You have to follow a team that won the state championship. I know they'll try everything in their power to repeat, but next year they'll have to, you know, develop their own identity. They're not going to be this year's team. They're going to be themselves. These guys walk out the door when they graduate in May, and it's going to be nice to remember them, but they're not going to be there next year. You're going to have to forget that, and you're going to have to be the leaders, and you're going to have to be the people on the field. And it'll be the freshmen and sophomores that they'll have to next year get that much better so they can just continue what's been going on here over the last 40 years. But first, as we go, and I don't really have any specific order, if you'd stand until I'm done introducing all of you, and then you can sit down. Dave Barney, who's an offensive tackle for us. Andy Birsa, who's an offensive guard, a center, a tackle, played a few places. Jimmy McCasey, who's a center and was our long snapper this year on field goals, extra points. Chris Vaselli, an offensive guard. Don Lattis, offensive tackle. Steve Capinas, a wide receiver. Paul Hasminas, a wide receiver. Scott Kozlowski, a wide receiver for us. Tony Hafner, quarterback. Brad Renwick, fullback. Brian Bloom, a halfback. And our last offensive junior, who maybe not very rare, but not often you get a junior have this much impact on a football team, and that's our running back, Mike Allstott. Okay, guys, you can have a seat. You can rest a few minutes. Now for our seniors, and that's, really what it's all about. In the sports and the banquets, if you could legitimately have all your seniors play, and that's what it should be. Obviously, that doesn't happen all the time, but this is one time in their careers where this night is for them. They're not going to have any more. Some of these kids will never have another banquet again, an athletic banquet, until their son or daughter is playing athletics, down the road sometime. So I'd like to introduce our seniors, fullback, who did not get a lot of playing time. He got to play some as our first-string fullback was injured. He was a guard, and then suddenly he was even a guard at the beginning of this year, and I said, well, how'd you like to be a fullback? And he said, sure, so we made him one. He made some important plays as a blocker, as a runner, made a tremendously important play when he recovered the onside kick of the state championship game, and that's Jeff Pucell. Another fullback, our starting fullback, who, again, he was converted to a fullback during his sophomore year. He's always been a defensive player. You saw him run out there. You saw him, I think, maybe the most impressive run of the whole season might have been one that didn't quite get us the first down, was when he caught the pass against Geneseo and carried about 7 or 8 guys down the sideline, and that's Brian Holman. Half of our, what I tell everybody, half of our right halfback set, we had 2 people that when people asked for starters, I give them both because they both were starters. They both contributed immensely. Combined between the 2 of them, they rushed for over 1,000 yards from that position. Our little Irby, James Irby. One little story about James, that became kind of the thing during the playoffs. They were referring to him as Little Irby in the TV and things like that. My son's a football fanatic. He plays football at home constantly. He's all the players. He knows every position, what they do. Well, one day my 15-month-old daughter had the helmet and the helmet on and was running down the hall with the football, and my son goes, "Look, Mom, there's Little Irby." James's partner did an outstanding job for us all year. He a tremendous accolade from another coach. One of the Holy Cross coaches said that this young man was his favorite player in the conference simply because he played hard every single play. Jim Lynch. A senior offensive guard who did not get to play last year because of an auto accident or very early in the year, Craig Moe. Excuse me. Offensive tackle, backup center when we thought we needed some help at center, a running back in the St. Leo game, Paul Kinsella. Our left tackle, who has had, one thing about this team is that we had some people who were stars as far as the media were concerned, who could have become stars if they wanted to. We had a few of them, not only 1 or 2, but no one ever let it get to them. And if there's anybody who really could have, but he's never, it just flies off his shoulders. A young man who is a member of the Tribune All-State team, the Chicago Sun-Times All-State team, the Champaign News-Gazette All-State team. He was on ESPN as one of the top recruits in the nation, who is going to be named, I'm fairly sure, in December to the USA Today All-American team, who will probably make most other All-American teams, and who is named to the Gatorade Circle of Champions, and also named as the Gatorade Midwest Player of the Year and is in the finals for the Gatorade National Player of the Year, John Horn. Our left guard, not as big as some of the people on this team, although as solid as anybody. What he lacked in height, he had in strength, he had in determination. The only problem we had with him is he wanted to use his head all the time, and that caused a lot of burning sensations down his neck and down into his arm, and we tried to get him to stop it. Ed Schmidt. Our center, at Joliet Catholic, if you're the center, you have to be the glue that holds everybody else together. You make the line calls. You're responsible for what the defense is. There's just, obviously, you have the importance of knowing when the ball's got to be snapped every time. And this young man did a great job of it. Two-year starter for us, Rob Espalik. My right guard played tackle for us last year. He is just, he's a great person. I told him he should just graduate and skip going on to school and just go right into politics because he's a politician, I'll tell you that. And that is Curly McGraw, who says, I only call him Brent when I'm mad at him. Our right tackle, a young man who we planned on having play tackle last year, came down with mononucleosis, so we only kept him on one side of the ball, and this year we were able to bring him over to play offense and defense. It enabled us to move Curly into guard. I think it really finished off our offensive line and gave us the best five people we possibly could have on the field at any one time. That's Eric Gray. One of our receivers, a young man who is only his second year of playing football, improved 100 times over last year. You've never really played football before and you come out as a junior. It's not the easiest sport to learn. He had some trouble he was very tentative at the beginning of last year. If you can't just fly out at things at football, you're going to have trouble. Well, he flew out this year. Obviously, we didn't throw the ball that much. He's a young man with very good hands. When we had the five linemen I had and the four backs I had, why pass when I can just hand the ball off? It's much easier. He became a tremendous blocker. And we ran behind him a lot of the time as far as his side of the ball, Chris Allen. One of our receivers who is a three-year or 2.5-year varsity player, also did our punting, our kicking, our extra points, the one field goal we attempted. Not that he wasn't a field goal kicker, just that after the St. Lawrence game, we really never got the need for a field goal again the rest of the year. He did a great job for us, had a tremendous per-catch average. I'm not sure, somewhere around 18 yards of a reception. Jeff Bonebrake. Our third receiver of our starters, a young man who lost a lot of playing time in the playoffs because of an ankle injury, had a great 3 years on the varsity. There are people that sometimes have problems with him. Darren sometimes can be a little bit flighty and things like that. He was never in 3 years any trouble whatsoever for me on the football team, simply because I think I kind of knew, Darren could be goofy, but when I yelled at him to shut up, he did shut up, As I said already, he set the career record for pass receptions. He was a big play guy all 3 years. We had to go to it many times we needed a reception. Quarterbacks, whether it be Chris Mahalik or Fitzgerald last year or Jason Nedlow, were looking towards him. He had a very fine career. He's going to go on to a fine career playing basketball, although a lot of people would love to have him play football. Darren Freeman. A young man, like many of the, everybody on this team was vital to this team. Very important whether they played or not. This is a young man that got to play very, very little. He wanted to be a quarterback. We let him be a quarterback. He ended up being quarterback most of the time for the other team. That's what he'd do during the week, is he ran the other team's offense. He got yelled at a lot. It never seemed to bother him, or if it did, it never stopped him from coming out there again. He also ran cross country, came up and goes, Coach, can I run cross country also? I said, sure, go ahead if you want to do it. And I think one of the biggest, just shows the team, we had a home cross country match at school and they run around the football field. And when he came running past the football field, everybody stopped and just started cheering for him. And he really kicked it up another level because of that. I think it really helped him. And he helped us for what he did for us. You know, he did a lot of work that a lot of athletes would not want to do. No, you're not going to play a lot, but you're going to be asked to do the worst thing possible in practice, and that's be the quarterback for the other team. That's Jason Crow. The last young man I get, again, I said he kind of sticks out in my mind because as an individual, as myself, you never tell me what I can't do or what you expect I can't do. I will do it if you tell me I can't. Even if sometimes when I was a kid it was the wrong thing. You know, if Mom said, you can't do that, Robert, you could bet I was going to try to do it. Well, I was told how this kid couldn't do it, how we had to find a quarterback. You know, no offense, but everybody's telling me, well, it's going to be Tony Hafner's going to be your quarterback coach. This kid can't play. I don't know why. I really honestly don't even know why anybody got that idea. Jason was forced to play in the Richards game, his first start of the season, against the best team in the state of Illinois on a bad night. And even with all that, he was 12 for 25 throwing the ball the first game he ever started in varsity football against the best team in the state. 12 for 25 is not bad. I have no idea if any of you people were some of those doubters thought that was terrible. We've had starting quarterbacks not throw for near that good. So myself and Coach Douglas never had any doubt that he would be able to lead our team. He not only led it, he did much more even than we thought he could. And I know having a personal conversation with him, he did more than he even thought he could. Jason, everybody says, oh, well, you run the football, you never do this. And I said, yeah, and we passed for over 1,000 yards and had 13 touchdowns. That's good for any quarterback at any high school level. Jason Nedlow. Last group I'd like to recognize, I know I've taken way too long, are going to be our young men who are named to the East Suburban Catholic All-Conference team. It expanded this year to 10 teams, obviously, with Marion Catholic and Bennett Academy. We did not expand the all-conference team, so it made it that much harder to make that squad. And even with that, we were able to get 9 young men make that team, 3 from the defense, if you'd stand up until I'm finished with all of you. Mike Jones, Tom Snyder, Scott Wang. Darren Freeman, Eric Gray, Curly McGraw, Ed Schmidt, Mike Allstott, and a young man just again adding to him. And I noticed embarrassed. Not only was he made all conference, he was the first offensive lineman in the history of the East Suburban Catholic Conference to be named the most valuable player in the league, John Horn. Now I'm going to address you the best, without a doubt, public speaker anywhere, Corey McLaughlin.
First, whatever is accomplished as a coaching staff is done on a three-way street. Barry Dean and Terry Benner and myself, the strategies that are presented before the game are during the week. It's done on a Sunday, and we all contribute. It's not Corey McLaughlin, it's Barry Dean, it's Terry Benner, and it's Corey McLaughlin, though. I want to make that very clear. I titled this here, The Road to the State Championship, The Road to Normal. I can't remember when a season was so complete. It was a manner in which we scaled the mountain. I never knew a team like this before, so dominating. The scores against our opponents were indicative of our powerful performance. And you, the defensive unit, played outstanding throughout the season. It started with the Marian Catholic game, in which we won 15-6, and we recorded more than 8 quarterback sacks. The linemen were simply awesome. We had those guys ducking and dodging all night. Our second big test came against Mundelein Carmel, in which we won 34-7. For the most part, we shut down their running game to a trickle. Then came the Chicago Mares. We didn't allow them a first down the first 2 quarters. We won going away 21-7. And then the game of the decade, Catholic High versus Morris. That game can be titled The Sack Man Coming. We beat them into submission. It was a gala affair, our finest hour. Score, Catholic Academy 36, Morris 10. We journeyed out to Rockton-Onega in a game beset with rain, high winds, and a slippery field. And we shut those guys down completely by not allowing them a first down for more than 3 quarters. Score that one 25-14, another Catholic Academy victory. And then Mr. Rogers comes to Joliet. Leo versus the Hilltoppers. We did our best against Corey Rogers, who was considered Illinois #1 halfback. We defensive players thought that Mike Allstock was Illinois #1 halfback. And our best was good enough. We found we were no good without each other playing his part. It was pursuit and penetration. Our magic lasted for 4 quarters. Score another one for the good guys, 27-12. Catholic Academy beats Geneseo, in which can be termed an epic battle. The intensity level was the highest I've ever experienced. I like to dwell on a 2-point conversion attempt that ultimately decided the state championship. Here we were face to face with what turned out to be our most formidable foe, Geneseo. When all of our hopes and dreams were just a moment away and all the answers were left in our hands, I learned to listen to all the people, to all the players, to ride their enthusiasm to the top. The most important information one gets is that of his players. I asked them what call they wanted to make, and they all agreed it was to be Roseville Lightning. In other words, send Trinidad, send Romper, send us all, Coach. I looked into their eyes and heard their voices, and I knew the outcome. And they were ready to make a memorable stand. There was such an awesome feeling when I left the huddle. Here we were again. I guess it must be fate. The road to normal, to the state championship, after all is said and done, comes down to one play and how much we as a team wanted it. In other words, it was gut check time. Geneseo ran their best back. They made a mistake. They ran him at our best lineman. John Horn. He stopped him with one hand, holding him up for the rest of his teammates to finish him off. It was checkmate. Catholic High win, 21-20. There was another person who traveled with us on our road to normal, and he was our Heavenly Father. When we needed him, we just closed our eyes, and he was there by our side. When there was fear, he was there with us until the fear subsided. He said, "Trust in me and humble yourselves, for the proud shall be humbled, but the humble shall be honored." He said, anything is possible in life if you have faith and are trusting as little children. We give thanks to his constant companionship. And now to you juniors. At this time, I would like to introduce them. We're confident that these guys here will carry on the tradition of these seniors who are graduating. Please stand. As defensive lineman, Todd Stromitis. John Lukancic. Ed Clark. Chris Basil. And Chris Carr. The defensive linebackers, John Lynch, Tom Wills, Doug Bettinger, Joe Barbick. And the defensive backs, Matt Barrett, John Van Tassel, and Ryan Brown. And to the seniors, please stand and remain standing there, please. To those that fly with the eagles, high in the heavens, the defensive backs, Pete Carroll, Scott Wang, Mike Brignell, Mike Preet, Bob Ferretti. And to those guys that set the game tempo, the impact hitters, our linebackers, Jason Buss, Mike Rompa, Greg Trinner, Mike O'Connell, Rob Paleo, Bart Allen. And those that dwell in the pit, the red knuckle guy, John Green, Tim Terrell, Mike Jones, Tom Snyder, Eric Gray, and John Horn. Fellas, the memory of this season will last forever. Every road you take will lead you back to Joliet Catholic Academy. The road of self-determination, discipline, integrity, pride, and desire. Carry with you always the qualities that made you a state champion. Desire to be the very best possible. Fight for every yard. Play the game of life and don't ask for any quarters. Make the necessary sacrifices. Keep the enthusiasm. Enrich the lives of others that play with you. And promise to keep the tradition learned here at Catholic Academy, that of excellence. There will be lifetime memories, this camaraderie, this love for one another is forever. I'm glad for the good times. They say that all good things must end, but you have your dreams to follow, and the road will lead you to new mountains to scale. Christmas came early, Place your gold medal at the top of the tree, humbly proud. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
I'd like to remind all of our football players to please be sure to pick up your athletic awards before you leave this evening, up here in the front of the room from your respective coaches. And I guess the road to... Oh, we've got something brewing here. Something's cooking.
We'll be right back.
Okay.
On behalf of the seniors, we would like to, and all the other football players, the juniors, we would especially like to thank two of the mothers that helped out with everything for us this season. They fed us a few times and helped with ticket sales and got this hall for us. And we just like to say that we really appreciate it, and we thank you for your help. This is Karen McGraw and Annette Buss.
This is on behalf of the defensive line to Coach Benner. A nice little jacket. It's double X large, Coach. I thought of something that he might like to for maybe after tonight. I got him a little beer pitcher that says Terry B on it. He's got his initials on there.
We got flowers for Sister Maury, first of all, and or Sister Lucille, sorry. My fault. Then we also got flowers for the coaches' wives, because we know how much they put up with through the season. Their husbands come home yelling about us. So, and also from the linebackers, we got a jacket for Coach Mack. And that's about it.
Even though he has enough clothes, you could always use more.
And from the secondary, for Mr. Dean, we have a jacket for him also to show our thanks.
Just for you, Barry.
Well, Coach Douglas ain't here, but we got him a jacket too. And just a little story about him, because he's not here. Don't anybody tell him, okay? One day, Paul Kinsella showed up at practice, and there was a day it was like 70 degrees all day. Paul shows up to practice with a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, and it ended up being like 30 degrees at practice time. So Paul comes out, and he's got the colored socks because he forgot his white socks. And he comes out in a pair of shorts, and Coach Douglas says, Paul, come here for a second. I got a pair of sweats for you. Here he comes in these farmer black, dingy, unbelievable, worn out sweats. So just to pay the favor back, Paul got him a new pair of sweats. And we got him a jacket. So.
I'd like to present this to Mr. Stone. He's the coach who made it off for us this year. He's the one. And thanks, Mr.
Someone earlier this evening gave these to Sister Lucille for me to make an announcement about. From Larson's Palette and Frame, custom framing at the right price. You can get your medals and things framed. Evidently, a few years ago, I think a couple of the guys that played on the '87 team, they went there and got some nice things framed. And if you want one, come up here and get it afterwards. And the wool award jackets are in, finally. They can be ordered through the bookstore at school. And if you want to see what one looks like. Okay. My understanding is Ken Woody's about 120, 130. This is 95. So we seldom sell things so cheaply, you know. I think that's about it for this evening. I hope you all had a great time. Again, don't forget to pick up your certificates and letters before you leave. Good night.
Okay, ready?
Hey, Bill, how you doing?
Okay, who's next?
Where we get our stuff?
Gotta get, put your arm, wait till my feet comes on. All right, ready?
Oh, hey, where's Coach Stone at? I'm here. Yeah, baby.
I'm running that show.
Word.
Okay, ready?
Coach Benner, you're real cool.
Father Bernie, come on up front. We got a sweatshirt for you, too. Not that you could...
Please don't let this feeling end. It's everything I am, everything I wanna be. I can see what's mine now, finding out what's true. Since I've found you, looking through the eyes of love. Now I can take the time, I can see my love